So, 3 out of our 4 lemon, cattleya, strawberry, guavas, we got 3 varieties, I think, have their blooms opening. So we got a pretty nice amount of elderberry blooms here, and several of our, plants, trees, shrubs, whatever you want to call them, are blooming. Our Saijo or Seijo persimmons have little tiny persimmons on them already. They're looking really good. These guys are the size maybe of a, really large plum. So you can eat 3 or 4 or 5 at a time versus maybe like a Tananashi or something, or Fuyu. Tananashi, you might want to eat 1. Fuyu, you might eat 2. So it looks like our bad luck streak is at it again. So T-Mobile is going to start enforcing their address verification, and then they're going to shut off the box or force you to sign away to their away account, which is like $160 a month for, unlimited internet, which probably is the same thing as the 1.2 terabyte, and then it throttles you or whatever, deprioritizes you. Or you can go with a 200 gigabyte data limit for $110 a month. So that kind of leaves Starlink as even potentially a better option, except that, we had so much trouble with real-time video conferencing and Wi-Fi calls on it. So beginning May 8th, 2024, they're going to notify customers if their address they're using, their routers, is at a different location than their sign-up address. So I called T-Mobile and had an address change done, but I'm still uncertain if that's what we were supposed to do, if it's going to keep our service, because when we put it online at the service address checker, it says it's not available here. I don't know if I got in touch with the right department, the wrong department, but I guess, on the 8th of next month we'll see, or we'll be sending it back to them. But we do have till almost the end of next month to send that new antenna we bought back. So we'll know by then if we, don't need that antenna. So it won't be wasted money. It was like $235 after taxes. So that waveform outdoor antenna for the T-Mobile system. Let's look at these tubers. What isn't coming up yet? These caladiums have not come up yet. And the liatris, whatever they're called, haven't come up. But everything else besides the ferns, and I don't think any of the ferns have come up yet, have at least showed some sprouting. Oh, except the hollyhocks there. Forgot about them. They were just in a little pot kind of in the shadow there. So we're gonna probably daily keep an eye on this area where we put this straw and this rock where Natalie and the kids found black racer laying eggs on a sidewalk. So we put them down here and buried them very loosely, put the hay over them, put the rock there, and it takes about 60 days to hatch. So, raccoons or anything can come get them, but hopefully not. It's undisturbed, 24 hours are safe. We're back in here at Wetland Zone 1, where the shade and the root density from all the trees, mostly red maples and a few oaks and camphor and a few other things like that, have just made it almost impossible to dig in, to plant in, or anything. And you might say, well, there's weeds and everything everywhere, and things do come up wild here. But we've never been able to keep anything alive long term that we planted. Pecans. I think we put citrus, like 2 citrus trees maybe, and a few other things, and nothing seems to survive. So what can we do with this? Do we have to do a raised age wood chip garden, alternative bed, right? Probably not this season, but we're still looking into what we can do. I guess the ultimate problem with doing the raised bed is we still have tons and tons of shade from pretty much every direction. So even if we overcome the root density, it'd be hard to overcome all the shade. There isn't, even though there's like oaks like on the outside border, maybe an oak tree or 2, they're not really over, having a big canopy over this area. So I would be hesitant to put more citrus down. Maybe some of the strawberry or lemon or yellow cattleya guavas, maybe Suriname cherries, maybe cherry of Rio Grande, maybe asparagus. So this is our xeriscaping zone. And, you know, we still have not got a good update other than, you know, it hasn't really done well. I think, you know, we rooted a bunch of the cactuses, different types of cactuses, and a lot of them rooted, a lot of them came up, and then they disappeared. So, like, wild rabbits or something, or squirrels or something must have been eating the pads and killing them off. And I don't know if we're going to have any. Well, I do know we got one over here. I don't even know if you can see that. This is the desert glow that we rooted. You can see it's rooted from the bottom, and it's got a few pads coming in two little different areas. There's no sign down here of the tricolor that rooted. I mean, it could possibly still come up there, but it's not looking good. Here's the desert apple. Can I even see it? There we go. So that's like 2 of the 6 or so that we rooted and put in the ground. I'm thinking if we do any more in the future, we need to actually root them in a pot somewhere, keep the mother plant safe in the pot, you know, and then root from those potted plants. Because the xeriscaping zone has not really been a priority. It's like an experiment. And I take long breaks from trying to do something here. That doesn't mean I've given up on it. There are just other things that are more exciting and, you know, all that good stuff. Now, I mean, we still have our thornless cactus here. And we still have our prickly pears, you know, are kind of, they're from Texas, you know, kind of spread all around in between all these weeds. You can't really see them right now, but they've fallen over and re-rooted, so there's several plants right there. Well, it's another day, sunny and bright. It was chilly this morning, but I noticed like some of these sweet potatoes are really getting, you know, a lot of growth. So these were growing on these newly planted blueberries, so we're gonna have to pull some slips off of them. Keep it, you know, we got to keep pulling them this season until those blueberries maybe have at least a year of growth on them. So this is going to be a lot of work this season. These slips can be just composted, or, you know, you can just put them in the ground and they'll root somewhere else. I think most of the fruit on this fantastic avocado has dropped, and the one that's still there looks kind of sad. I mean, we realize there's transplant shock, so we didn't really expect much on it. So probably no avocados this year on this guy. But I do need to tie it up, probably in a soon video, where we try to pull this drooping branch up, maybe tie it between that elderberry and that, what is this, juniper. I had a brain fart there for just a second. Just walking under these canopies of these elderberry forests, you can smell the flowers pretty strong in the morning. So we're taking a look at the purple one again. I guess this is a North American variety. So look at all those potential slips there. I could probably root them in water, or we can wait a few weeks and have them like 12, 14, 16 inches each, and just put them directly in a bed or the ground, and then they should pretty much root. You know, they're easy to root once they're 12 inches or so directly in the soil. Some people would prefer to put them in water for a week or two to get roots, but I find that kind of unnecessary. Having those purple ones, you know, versus just the Japanese purple and all the other varieties, it just diversifies, you know, what you have. Maybe we can find an area where no other sweet potatoes are and plant them there. Guess it was a bad idea to put these little peat pots down on the ground, because these carrots or whatever have been pulled out by something. We do have some okra there. Let's go ahead and plant some of these okra plants somewhere. It's so strange that I put some directly in the ground and do not see much, and then you put them in a pot and then they like shoot up. Okra is actually a hibiscus, annual hibiscus, very pretty, but you know, of course, it only lasts a season. This kind of loose sand does not want to cooperate well to cover the cups, but hey, we'll put one there. We'll find a better place for the others. Put one in a log there and one down there, and we're just gonna let nature take its course. I've definitely been experimenting with like putting things in like rotten logs, seeds and stuff, and I've seen a few of them pop up. So we'll see long term how this does. I think I've tried it in the past where the log wasn't super rotten and they would die, but these guys here are decomposed a lot. I mean, you could probably go through 30 or 40% of these logs and push in with your finger and they turn to sawdust, and some of them are holding moisture pretty well. I mean, and so they should be providing some nutrients in that breakdown. There's probably beetle larvae and all kinds of stuff in there, you know, eating it, breaking it down, you know, fungal activity as well, probably bacteria that's, you know, causing it to, you know, heat up in the cool days, causing, you know, the poop and the decomposition, you know, causing nutrients to be provided. I mean, that sounds good in theory. Let's just see how it works, you know, in reality. And just let's take a look here. Check that out. It's just crumbling almost like soil. So here are some of the tomatoes we have, and we're bottom soaking them because the sun and the heat is just being bad on them. Every time we take them away for a day or two, they shrivel, and I mean, they don't look great, but they definitely got a lot of growth just by, you know, having them in a tub where they're bottom soaking from water, rainwater. I'll briefly change the subject. You know, I've talked a few times about the theory of lightning charging, you know, the sky, you know, and then the rain coming and getting nitrogen or nitrates or nitrites or whatever from the charged atmosphere. And, you know, I didn't know there was scientific proof, you know, when I was talking about it. I just heard it, you know, for over the years. But I was watching a part of a nature documentary. It was either on Disney Plus or Netflix, I can't remember. And I think it's a new one, not sure. Had the kids eating breakfast, and we had it on just playing for them. And it has, you know, all the wildlife and nature and, you know, storms and stuff. But the first episode of this documentary talked about that same thing, you know, the fog rolling in and then the lightning charging the fog. And then when the rain come down from the lightning charged sky, you know, feeds all of these plants, you know, in the monsoons. They were, I think, talking about the monsoons and maybe a desert or something, but it seems to be true that it feeds these plants. You know, they get their nitrogen from the charged air, you know. So I guess I can now talk about that without wondering if I'm just a believer of some madness, you know, that's unscientific, and thinking, well, you know, am I crazy for repeating this? So I guess it is true. Just want you guys to see the kind of a distant view of some of the elderberries in bloom here. We talked about them being in bloom. Let's see if we can get closer until we get like, there we go. This is just one little section of many. And here is just a single cultivar or whatever, a wild one that's been here for like 30 plus years. This wild one here doesn't really have much smell or anything. The berries, I think, are small to medium. They're not, you know, anything fancy. Since it's been a while since I've talked about elderberries, I'll kind of tell you about the ones on my property. So we had a few growing here and there in little really dark areas and on the properties, and we didn't really have like high production. Anytime we had to go get elderberries, we went down the railroad tracks or something as kids or something like that, picked them. There just wasn't enough here to pick. So we had some growing in a ditch near our roadway, and I grabbed like two giant ones. There's one there. It's probably, you know, 40 plus years old. And another one over there, probably the same exact cultivar, just a root sucker, I should say. Now, most people that grow these, they just cut them to the ground, but check this out. You can't even really see my hand back there. I mean, this isn't the biggest one, but you know, that's probably 6-7 inches round, you know, like a 6 or 7 inch speaker. And we brought them here for pollination purposes. I ended up getting John's and Adams cultivars to plant right over there with those other ones. Most likely the Adams died, although it did produce for several years, and it bred with all these wild types. And most of the ones on our property are different hybrids between Adams and the wild ones. I think our Johns either produced very little or nothing before it died. And we brought in different cultivars and planted them in different areas, and if they're still alive, they are probably in such a root dense zone or something that they haven't produced much, if anything. So again, we're reverting back to the strongest one being the Adams, you know, the survivor that produced tons and tons of flowers and berries. And then we're comparing them to the ones that pop up, you know, from the seedlings, and berry size and everything, smell of the flowers, are very reminiscent of the Adams, and all of them are bigger than the wild types. Bigger flower heads, more smells, you know, kind of like that vanilla-y smell, very sweet, where the wild types have very little, if no smell, at least our personal wild ones. We picked the best one so far was in 2015. We just call it 2015 best. Haven't been trimming it or anything, but it produces in right here where these black dwarf everbearing mulberries were or are. But there also is a big stand of them where we were earlier. Huge, probably, you know, root suckers from probably 75 or 100 feet. Now, I'm sure there are seedlings that just popped up in between everywhere, but for the most part, that's our 2015 best. And last year, we decided to just let them grow out in wetland zone 1, all the seedlings that popped up. And so far, nothing has beaten the 2015 best, including like the Adams cultivar. So it's like Adams times, you know, 1.25 or something like that. You know, it's not 10 times better or bigger, about the same. It's just a little bit bigger heads, similar or possibly slightly larger berry size, amazing smells. Back here in this sort of root dense shady area, we had like York and a few others that we planted. And, you know, there are some, you know, probably 10, 15 plants that are alive. They just haven't grown. They haven't produced but a couple flower heads. So it's possible that the original cultivars are still alive here. They just haven't done anything. And we planted a few European cultivars, and they never live. They never make it to season 2. There is a cultivar of European / North American or Canadian cross, I think called Marge, that's supposed to be, you know, one that would survive here, but I just haven't tried it yet. And there are a couple like Bob Gordon that's supposed to be some of the biggest berries as well. I just haven't dedicated resources to get those things, and I'm not sure if I will or not. I generally use the flowers for fritters, and they have an amazing, they taste like that sweet smell that you smell, you know, on a really sweet vanilla-esque, you know, flower. But the berries, I seem to like mix about 50-50 when I'm making jams and jellies with like beauty berries and maybe wild muscadines and blueberries. The last 2 pies I had, you know, they were just bitter. You know, they weren't very good. They were good, but they were also super bitter, and that is not a good trait, you know, to have in a pie, in my opinion. Lastly, I guess I'll talk about, you know, post-mycorrhizal beds. When are we going to start? You know, we really need to start. We really need to finish, probably before June. It just seems like I need some peace. I need time to think about, plan things out, and have time to build these guys out. There's a lot of physical work, walking, trying to diversify all the leaves, all the sticks, tree types that we use in these beds, raking and, walking, 10,000 feet or more, just going zooming back and forth to get the materials to do the beds. Luckily, post-mycorrhizal beds that we do are very short, so it's not as hard of work or than making a big bed or a long bed, and we can make probably several in a day if we have the time to dedicate to that. But right now we do not. I think that's about it. Sorry for not planning more stuff out today, but hopefully tomorrow, hopefully the next day, we need to get some more stuff in the ground. We have a lot of things to plant. So take care, guys.